The Canon RF 200 to 800mm lens, is it too slow for bird photography, specifically birds in flight? And I'm here to tell you no. But then I've only had it from about spring to autumn, or if you're American, fall. You Americans. Anyway, so I had the Sigma 150 to 600mm up until I went to Hong Kong in March. And I happened to walk into a store. You'd have seen this in a previous video. I've done a couple of reviews of the lens, of this lens, that one. And it's an f9. And I wasn't in any rush to buy it because I don't think I really need to upgrade from the 150 to 600. It was a good lens, secondhand, £600, and I thought it was brilliant. And it was better than my my Canon 90D I had before this. This is an R7, and Canon specify that the eye tracking doesn't work on non-RF lenses, but it did work a bit with the Sigma, enough that I did get some great photos. Now, when I bought it in Hong Kong and I started using it, yeah, it was quickly apparent, and that on that f9, particularly when it got later in the day, it's like, whoa, we are struggling a little bit here. And because I was used to the Sigma 150 to 600mm. I mean, the minimum f number on the Sigma was 6.3 when zoomed all the way out. And as most people are aware, you don't get the best sharpness when you're wide open, as they say, if you can call 6.3 wide open. So I generally kept it at f8 at 600mm. Now, the 200 to 800, like I've said before, if I go back to 600mm, it will go to f8. So it's kind of the same lens in that respect. Now let's talk sensors. On the R7, you've got the crop sensor, which magnifies the lens by 1.6. The crop sensor, smaller sensor, means the pixels are closer together, means more noise because they get hotter, they interfere with each other, as the old school magazines I used to read told me. Now, I've seen a comparison video online of the R7 and the R8, the R8 being full frame, and the chap said that, it's a very English term, the chap said that on a full frame sensor of the R8 you could push to sort of 12,800 ISO, and on the R7 you really didn't want to go past 6,400. So by the sounds of it, with a full frame sensor you can push to double the ISO. Of course you're going to lose 0.6 magnification, but doesn't matter if that's the only light you've got and you've got the R8. Great, you can use it longer because you can get away with more sensitivity and less noise. So take that into consideration. Also, the other thing about the full frame is you get a smaller depth of field. Now, when tracking birds, if they're flying in front of trees, walls, bushes, etc., cameras will have a lot to decide what is the thing they need to focus on. Now, if the subject, the bird, is isolated better, which will happen on a full frame, you're more likely to get the sharp shot. So that's another consideration with full frame. There was a Pirates movie, like an Aardman animation, which had Hugh Grant as one of the voice actors, and I believe watching a documentary about it, and they said they filmed it on crop censored cameras because you get a greater depth of field. So yeah, it makes sense. So basically, every 5 minutes after dawn you're going to get one extra stop, and every 5 minutes towards dusk you're going to lose a stop. So, you know, within 15 minutes most lenses are in the same position. So a more expensive lens can go wider and give you an extra 10-15 minutes before the sun goes down. So as it gets darker, not all bird flight shots will be out of the question. Smaller birds, absolutely not, you know, warblers and hummingbirds if you live in the appropriate country. But bigger birds, raptors, geese, whatever, gulls, if you're into that sort of thing, you can get them at like 800th of a second if they're just gliding along. Then you could go down the artistic route. Many great bird flight photos are the bird not actually sharp, showing the movement, the bird only like say 90, 85%, 90% sharp, wings a bit blurred and the background blurred. Great sense of movement. If you're into that sort of thing, why not? Of course, it's a different story for birds that are stationary. Now, if you get a robin or an owl or any kind of raptor, they're going to stand very, very still. And I've taken photos down at 1/50th of a second, which means you can use much lower ISO. If you're trying to get photos of a sandpiper or a wagtail, you're not getting that 1/50th of a second. Something's going to be blurry. Anyway, getting back to the flight stuff. Again, it's a compromise. After having 800mm, I can't go back to anything shorter. Wildlife is, for the majority of the time, is further away, and you need that zoom. You just have to miss out sometimes when something jumps out and you can't zoom back far enough to capture it. But 95% of the time, the wildlife is far away. Now, we're coming up to autumn, winter, so I'll do another video, maybe in March, to say what those last 6 months were like with an F9. Going to have to be on the ball. And remember, like I've said before, it's the photographer, not the equipment. So I hope this video has been of some help if you're thinking about the 200 to 800 lens. I've spoken to lots of people, I'm in and ahhing about getting it. It's quite a responsibility, because if I say to someone to get it, yeah, go for it, they spend that money and they're not happy. You know, this is the difficulty in becoming a bit of a go-to source on YouTube for these sort of things. You've got to, I usually word it like, if you can afford it, I like it, you have to go that way. I enjoy it, it's going to be down to you at the end of the day. You have to word it so that if anybody comes back at you or anything, I didn't actually say buy it, did I? Anyway, I hope that was a useful video.